Hey everybody, this is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. Let's get started. So the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G has a 6.6-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 266, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 84.3%. We got a water drop notch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 20 megapixels. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G has a 6.5-inch, 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 84.1%. We got a hole punch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 32 megapixels. So the A42 5G is a little bit bigger, as you can see here, but the A52 5G has a higher quality display with a resolution of 1080p versus 720p, and the PPI is a lot higher. Not only that, but the A52 5G also has a 120Hz display versus a 60Hz display. Now this is going to affect how the movement goes on the screen. With a 120Hz display, movement is going to be a lot faster and smoother. So as you can see here from the scrolling, this versus this. The biggest thing that this affects is basically how things move on the screen, whether it's animations or videos. So if you do a lot of content consumption or maybe high performance gaming, then you might benefit from the 120Hz display. And again, in addition to that, the A52 5G has a much higher quality with 1080p and a really high PPI, but the A42 5G does have a slightly bigger display. Overall, both of them have Super AMOLED displays, which means the colors are going to be a lot brighter and more powerful than something like an LCD or a TFT display. The A52 5G also does have a higher quality front-facing camera. Not only this, but I like the design a lot better. This hole punch versus the water drop notch. The water drop notch, even though granted on the A42 5G, it's not really as bad as a lot of others I've seen, is still a little weird looking compared to this nice clean hole punch that's just right in the middle there. It doesn't really bother anything, whereas with the water drop notch, it does take up a little bit more space and it looks a little bit more out of place. Both of these devices have 128 gigabytes of internal storage, but with the A52 5G, there is an option to go up to 256. Now regardless, these phones get a great amount of storage. 128 gigabytes is going to be plenty of storage for your average everyday activities. Now if you're shooting a lot of videos, whether that's in 1080p or 4K, you might actually end up using a ton of space, and in that case, I could see why you would want to get the 256 gigabyte variant of the A52 5G, but unless you're doing something like that, you're not going to have to worry about running out of space with either of these phones. Neither of these devices have wireless charging, but both of them have fingerprint scanners and face unlock, so that's really good as far as security goes. Both these fingerprint scanners are in the display, as you can see here, and they look really nice, giving the phone a nice modern touch. We're going to go ahead and give these fingerprint scanners a try, starting with the A42 5G. One more time. Nice, so that was really fast and responsive. We're going to try out the A52 5G now and see if it's any different. One more time. So both of these fingerprint scanners were basically the same, really fast and responsive, and I've come to like the in-display fingerprint scanners a lot better than the other ones, whether it's on the back here or even on the power button. The one on the power button is usually a little bit faster than these, but I think the look that the in-display fingerprint scanners add is so nice that it's just worth it. Now let's take a look at the camera setups of both these phones. For the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G, we have a 48 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So a really good setup. Has pretty much all the features that you would expect on a phone at this level. For the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, we have a 64 megapixel rear camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So again, this phone has basically everything as far as its camera setup goes, but between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G does have higher quality cameras. 64 megapixels versus 48 megapixels does make a difference. Now, megapixels aren't everything, so definitely if you are interested in seeing the actual quality of the photos taken by these phones, be sure to check out the full reviews of each phone on the channel, because that's going to go over some photo and video samples to better help you in your decision-making process. Now, both of these phones are able to shoot 4K videos in their rear cameras, but the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is able to shoot 4K in the front-facing camera, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G can only shoot 1080p in the front-facing camera. So overall, if you're really focused on shooting really high-quality videos, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is most likely going to be a better option. And I would consider this to be the case for photos as well, because even though the A42 5G does have a really high quality camera with a lot of impressive features, the A52 5G is going to be a step up as far as that goes as well. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G is getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 750 5G processor. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone and it came back with a single core score of 658 and a multi-core score of 2009. And the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G is getting either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM depending on the variant you get. And this phone has the same processor as the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G. We ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on this phone as well, and it came back with a single core score of 647 and a multi-core score of 1939. So as far as processing power in general goes, these phones are basically going to be the same as far as speed goes, especially for basic tasks like web browsing and social media and content consumption. You're really not going to see a huge difference. Probably with the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, if you get the variant that has 8 gigabytes of RAM, then you're most likely going to see a little bit better performance when it comes to multitasking or programs and activities that are really taxing on the processor, like high performance gaming and video editing. That sort of thing, once you really get up there and really start working that processor hard, you're most likely going to see a bit better performance coming from the A52 5G because of those 2 extra gigabytes of RAM. But other than that, all things equal, these phones are basically going to be the same as far as processing power goes. A difference of 70 points in the multi-core score really isn't enough to make that much of a difference. To demonstrate this, I'm going to do a quick demonstration just so you can see what these phones look like in action. We're going to start by opening Google Chrome. So right there, that was basically the same. The A42 5G I saw opened just a tiny bit faster. We're going to check out a web page and see if this is the same. We're going to check out a web page real quick and see if it's consistent. So that was pretty much the same. It's actually a little hard to tell which one actually opened up faster, but you probably get the picture. They are really not that different. One of them is not significantly faster than the other as far as something like web browsing goes. Now again, on paper, according to Geekbench 5, the Samsung Galaxy A42 5G is just a tiny bit faster than the A52 5G as far as processing power goes. But if you do get the version of the A52 5G with 8 gigabytes of RAM, there might be an advantage when it comes to the more demanding activities. Other than that, I really wouldn't say the processor is a good judge of which phone is better than the other, just because they're so close. And if you're looking for a phone with a really good amount of processing power, both of these phones are actually really good. Now, as far as the battery goes, the A42 5G does have an advantage here with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery versus a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. Now, is this a really big difference? No, not really, but it still does stand. If you are in a situation where every little bit of battery life does matter, say you're on the go a lot, but still have to use your phone frequently, but can't actually charge it all the time, then you might want to go with the A42 5G because that 5,000 milliamp hour battery is the biggest out there right now. So with this phone's battery, you're really not going to get any better. Whereas with the A52 5G, even though a 4,500 milliamp hour battery is really big, there still is a step above it. Now, in conclusion, which one of these devices is actually better? They are pretty close. The A42 5G does have a few advantages, as does the A52 5G, when it comes to the most substantive advantages, I would give it to the A52 5G. The reason being, the camera is significantly better, and if you're taking a lot of photos and shooting a lot of videos, then the option for a 256GB variant is actually really useful. Not only that, but the A52 5G has a significantly better display, and this isn't by a tiny bit either. This is a 120Hz display versus a 60Hz display, and the resolution on the A52 5G is 1080p versus 720p. So if you're doing a lot of content consumption or high performance gaming or even looking at photos, then the display of the A52 5G is gonna be a lot better. But on the other hand, the A42 5G does have a slightly larger display. So if you're doing something where the quality doesn't matter, but you do want to see things a little bit bigger, then the A42 5G might make sense. This might be for something like reading, or if you're streaming videos and you just prefer everything to be bigger, then the A42 5G would have an advantage there. And it's not like the A42 5G has a terrible display either, even though it's only 720p. At 60 Hz, it is a Super AMOLED display, and it's not like an LCD or TFT or something like that, so the colors are still going to look really nice. The other thing the A42 5G has going for it that the A52 5G is a little behind in is the battery. Again, the A52 5G does have a really good battery, but it's not quite a 5000 mAh battery, which the A42 5G has. So at the end of the day, both phones are a really good choice for a really powerful phone that has well-balanced strengths and really can do anything you need it to, but each has its advantage. So for more information about each phone, as far as strengths and weaknesses go, be sure to check out the various videos about each individual device on the channel. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.